Welcome to Bench to Bedside, a weekly series of live conversations about recent advances in cancer, from the research bench to treatment at the patient's bedside. And now, your host and the director of the University of Kansas Cancer Center, Dr. Roy Jensen.
If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with cancer, you are bound to have a lot of questions. At the University of Kansas Cancer Center, we know the value of a second opinion. It allows you and your family to ask questions, explore your options, and ensure you get the correct diagnosis and the best treatment for your type of cancer. When you seek a second opinion from us, you'll benefit from the expertise of an entire team of cancer specialists. Our cancer physicians meet weekly to discuss the individual cases, review treatments, and share opinions. Medical, surgical, and radiation oncologists from different specialties review specific cases, including second opinions. With me to talk about the importance of second opinions is Dr. Jamie Wagner, Chief of Breast Surgical Oncology and Director of the Breast Cancer Program at the University of Kansas Cancer Center. Also joining us via Skype is her patient, Melissa Hartshorn, from Syracuse, Kansas, who turned to our telehealth cancer second opinion service to confirm her breast cancer diagnosis. Thanks to our telehealth second opinion service, Melissa was able to receive a consult with 3 breast cancer experts from her home and avoid the 8-hour drive to Kansas City. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Bench to Bedside. And I'm going to start with Dr. Wagner. Why are second opinions so valuable, especially those from a National Cancer Institute designated cancer center such as the University of Kansas?
Some very interesting data has been shown as we've evaluated patients not only getting second opinions, but getting second opinions at an NCI designated cancer center. The diagnosis can change with the treatment changing as high as 40% of the time. A good part of that is because of pathology review, as well as specialty-specific breast imaging review, and sometimes some additional studies and diagnostic procedures that need performed, changing the diagnosis, but most definitely all coming together as a multidisciplinary team that changes the recommendations for treatment.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about the cancer second opinion telehealth appointments? That's a bit of a new wrinkle, and why is that particularly important for us to offer second opinions via telehealth?
Yeah, it's actually been a phenomenal opportunity for us. One of the maybe turning lemons into lemonade of COVID, because we were able to get up on telehealth so rapidly. And our goal has always been to serve the patients of the state of Kansas as well as our surrounding region. But there are some geography restrictions that have always been there for them to travel quite a distance. This has allowed us to really broaden that footprint of patients that we're able to touch and give consultations such as a second opinion. And that's what we've been able to do. And with it being Zoom, it allows us to have multiple people participating all at the same time, literally on the screen at the same time, both on our end with having that full multidisciplinary team of a surgeon, a medical oncologist, and the radiation oncologist, but also on the patient's side. The support system during a cancer diagnosis is so incredibly important for patients to have. So not only were patients able to have maybe somebody that they're living with that otherwise we've had restrictions on how many people can be in the visit, but also across the country, people that may be living in different states that can now participate.
Mm-hmm. So, Melissa, could you tell us about your initial breast cancer diagnosis and why you chose to receive a second opinion through our telehealth cancer second opinion service?
Yes, I discovered a lump, in my breast myself in June, and I'm 77, and I quite honestly was very surprised. The first thought that came to my mind, because it was still COVID, our clinic was kind of locked down. Our doctors were only seeing emergency. I called Garden City Medical Center and made my own appointment for a mammogram the same day. This was June, and I was not able to get in till August the 4th because they were so far behind and they could not work me in. So I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it and didn't tell anyone. And then I went to Garden City and I had very good luck. I had a mammogram. It took a little while to get my clinic to write an order for a sonogram. And then I had a biopsy. Excellent care, excellent people. My diagnosis then came back to the clinic in my hometown there at Hamilton County Clinic, and they called me and asked me to come down, and I knew why I was going. And then in August, about the middle of August, I called my daughters, I gave them the news, and they immediately all started into the, wow, we're going to help mom thing. Hope, my daughter who is with me, I am at her home in Lewisburg. She came to Syracuse and she got me. She picked me up. She took me around. She took me to Garden City. She took me for visits. She called and talked to Patty Geiger, who is an amazing, amazing part of your team, your breast navigator. From there, we talked about my visit to Garden City. And then we talked about the wonderful contact from Patty and the things that were available by the telehealth. It would allow all of my daughters and my oldest granddaughter, who's in Mississippi, to be on this call. And I wanted to do it. And my daughters wanted me to do it. And that is when we met the dream team. And it didn't take very long after that telehealth call to know where I was going. Because like you said, Dr. Wagner, you're cutting edge, you're state of the art. You can do so many tests. You can do so many things. You could be, if this was something weird and strange, I suddenly felt like I was in the best place I could be. And that began our amazing journey.
That sounds great. So how did you first hear about the second opinion option?
I have always heard that a person should get a second opinion if they have a feeling or they are just still uneasy about something. Or as some of my friends, they didn't even believe their diagnosis, so they needed to hear from another set of doctors. So I think I've always, or for many, many years, doctor, I've been aware that second opinion is so valuable. And in this case, it was.
Okay. But then how did you hear specifically about our program that we offer, the telehealth second opinion?
From Patty Geiger,
I
the
see.
breast navigator
Okay.
for Dr. Wagner.
And how would you describe the experience of having a second opinion via telehealth?
It was wonderful. It gave my daughters the opportunity to ask questions. It gave them opportunities to hear all these three wonderful doctors speak. And the things that they learned in that short amount of time was invaluable. And it also started educating them. It started making them feel very, very confident and very hopeful. And the decision was made for us by that telehealth call.
Dr. Wagner, now we provide telehealth second opinions and also second opinions during in-person visits. Tell us about how those differ and specifically how telehealth is specifically different. And can patients get a second opinion on their breast cancer diagnosis and treatment during these sessions?
Absolutely. So this slight probably difference is how we go about delivering that entire consultation service. From a telehealth standpoint, you're going to have all three of the multidisciplinary team members on the screen at the same time. It is very tag team, so to speak, and so we go through that entire process. And it's probably slightly more brief, not necessarily because we are all three in there, that may be a bit of it, but more so because we're really trying to get down to, what are the next steps for you? Where do you need to go from here? From an in-person standpoint, it is still allowing the multidisciplinary team to meet prior to any of us entering the room with the patient, but there are a few additional, steps to that process. One in particular is breast imaging. If a patient is in Syracuse, Kansas, we're not going to have the opportunity for our radiologist to really review on their very sophisticated machines, the imaging she's already had done, or identify if there's anything additional that needs to be done for completeness of that workup. And that is part of what we incorporate when a patient is a face-to-face visit. So another aspect of things is our survivorship type of services that we also already embed in those in-person appointments, such as lymphedema education for patients having nodal surgery. If they need a port, for example, because we know they're going to need chemotherapy, we have nurse practitioners from our general surgeons that are part of that clinic to already educate patients on that process. So it's a much broader, a little bit more in-depth, so to speak, process.
I see. So if you're just joining us, we're here with Dr. Jamie Wagner, Division Chief of Breast Surgical Oncology and Director of the Breast Cancer Program at the University of Kansas Cancer Center, and her patient, Melissa Hartshorn, to talk about the importance of seeking a second opinion if you've been diagnosed with cancer. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below, and remember to share this link with people who may benefit from our discussion. Use the hashtag bench2bedside. Dr. Wagner, what does it mean for patients when we talk about a multidisciplinary approach to care?
Multidisciplinary approach to breast cancer care specifically has truly been what's revolutionized outcomes for patients. You know, several decades ago when it was just the surgeon or somebody in their silo, we were doing okay, where now we have really phenomenal outcomes for patients. But it's been through the identification of the need for many specialists to come together. It's not just the treatment specialists, it's not the breast surgical oncologists, medical oncologists, and radiation oncologists, which are all critical because that's who's delivering that. And it is by bringing that entire team together for delivery that makes the difference in survivorship for patients. But it actually goes a step further. Having pathologists as a part, an intimate part, honestly, of that team that we are very seamlessly working with, as well as our breast radiologist. We don't want to miss anything. We want to do the right treatment the first time and deliver it in the right fashion. And it's by bringing that entire 5-member team together that really makes the difference.
So obviously, as a pathologist, I'm a little bit biased, but you know, why is it that imaging and pathology are so important to ensuring an accurate second diagnosis, do you think?
Absolutely. You know, as I describe to every patient, the first thing I do when I go into the room is I tell them, the first thing we're going to do is let's go over your biopsy results from pathology, because that is the foundation on which all breast cancer treatment should be built. It's the foundation of our house. If we don't get that right, then we can't possibly get the treatment right. And treatment has become very tailored and directed towards the different histologies that we have for breast cancer. So that's absolutely where the pathologists, they're our foundation. Equal to that is the breast imagers, because if our radiologists aren't really identifying anything and everything, we could potentially undertreat a patient. We're going to undertreat with surgery. We could potentially undertreat with radiation or even the systemic therapy if we're not understanding the true extent of the disease.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, how did the idea to offer a second opinion through the telehealth modality come about? Was that purely a result of COVID, or were there discussions about this before then? Or
ironically, there were discussions before. We just got to the next step a whole lot faster. We already had been offering multidisciplinary in-person visits for a few years. So that process and the value to patients, we had definitely already understood. Our entire health system was already moving towards the use of telehealth, and we had been asked, or at least I had definitely been asked, to be thinking of opportunities to be able to use telehealth. And just understanding the vision and I think the values for our cancer center, it's to take care of the state and the region. but we also recognize how challenging it can be for people to get here, especially depending on the time of year it is.
Sure.
So this was kind of earmarked on my list that I had been asked to deliver for potential use of telehealth in the future. We were able just to deliver it much quicker as a result of a pandemic.
Melissa, I have another question about the telehealth experience for you. How did that change your thoughts about being a cancer patient, being able to involve your daughters in this process? What do you think that that did for you?
Well, I would say that I was so impressed with a breast cancer surgeon, number one. That's what she does. She's the best. I had a wonderful feeling about Dr. Khan, the oncologist. The radiologist, Dr. Lori, was just, they were all so kind, but they were all informative, and they all gave us some thoughts about what might lie ahead. This, again, answered questions that my daughters didn't even have to ask. There was no way they could all come with me. There's no way we could have driven all into Kansas City. There's no way we could have done this and had this be so all-inclusive for all my family and my support. And it was just, this is where we wanted to go. Patty was so helpful, but you know how to treat, you know how to diagnose, you know what to look for. I felt like everything was covered, and when the girls asked me what I wanted to do, I said, girls, you need to know that this is it, this is the place. And they knew this. It just impacted everybody. But the feeling you gave us of almost a peaceful feeling, this is going to work, and this is going to take care of me, and if Mama's got a really, really hard case, they're going to save my life. So this was just, it's a great thing to be able to do this and to talk and meet to someone over a telehealth. It's amazing, and it helped all my family.
Well, thanks for saying that. We certainly appreciate your participation today. Dr. Wagner, do you have any final thoughts on second opinion via telehealth, and what would you like to kind of leave with our audience today?
The second opinion telehealth is just an opportunity. There is never harm, and it's not disrespectful to ask for a second opinion. And now that you can get that in the comforts of your own home, be your own advocate and take advantage of it.
Yeah. You know, I think I would add that, you know, we're happy to have our patients get a second opinion as well. And in fact, you know, that happens all the time, and we appreciate that. And you know, the vast majority of time, they come right back here and they say, you know, we're ready to go. And that's, I think that gives them confidence in their course that we've selected for them. Melissa, I'm going to let you have the last word here. What are your final thoughts on telehealth and the opportunity to get a second opinion, and whatever else you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, the one thing I want to say is the first facility in Garden City that I went to, they did an amazing job of getting me in. As soon as I was in and had that mammogram, they knew instantly something was wrong. They wanted a sonogram and a biopsy, and they were so kind and so good and so attentive. But the thing about a second opinion, or even a third opinion, if someone feels like they need to, you have to find the one that fits you. You have to have the right fit. You have to have what makes your gut feel okay. It's the one that says, okay, whatever they tell me to do, I'm going to do it. I'm putting myself in their hands, and this is what we're going to do. And this is what I had that feeling sitting there at the dining room table, meeting everybody for the first time on the computer. It was like, that's where we're supposed to go. And it was an amazing, amazing experience, and I have never felt so safe and secure about anything. I was not frightened. I knew I was going to be okay. I didn't meet a person, anybody in that entire time I was there that was not the best at what they do. It's just an amazing place to go, and it worked for me. That's what you do. You find the place that is the right fit, and it's the right fit for me, and it was. And I'm telling people that. If they ask me, I'm telling them, this is where you go. And we drove 8.5 hours to get across the state. If I'd have done in Garden City, I'd have been 50 miles from home. But I didn't think about the mileage. I thought about the outcome. So, thank you all.
Well, thanks so much. Thanks so much for sharing your story, Melissa. And thank you, Dr. Wagner. That's it for today. To learn more, please visit kucancercenter.org. Join us next time for Bench to Bedside. Thanks for watching.